Hey everyone, I'm Liz Merrick with the Sugar Geek Show, and today we're going to talk about making Swiss meringue buttercream, the best buttercream ever. So Swiss meringue buttercream is a lot like easy buttercream. In fact, my easy buttercream is adapted from Swiss meringue buttercream. I used to make Swiss meringue buttercream every single time I had to make a wedding cake, and while it is really good, it is super time consuming. So if you're looking for a shortcut to Swiss meringue buttercream, check out my easy buttercream recipe. So the easy buttercream recipe uses something called pasteurized egg whites, which is this guy right here. This is what I use to make easy buttercream. But if you're gonna make Swiss meringue buttercream the old-fashioned way, you're gonna have to use egg whites from an egg. And these are not pasteurized. So the difference between easy buttercream and Swiss meringue buttercream is basically the egg whites. So let's go ahead and start making our Swiss meringue buttercream. I have all of my ingredients out. I have a couple inches of water poured into a saucepan, and I'm gonna bring it to a simmer. This is called a double boiler or a bain-marie, French. I have a stainless steel mixing bowl here that I'm going to be making my meringue in. You wanna make sure your stainless steel bowl is super clean, no fat or oil or anything in here, especially if you've made buttercream in this, because any small amounts of fat can actually cause your meringue to not whip up. Some people ask if you can use a glass bowl to do this, and you can, but it's gonna take a lot longer for your meringue to cool down. I have my butter here. This is softened butter. You should be able to put your fingerprint in softened butter, and it should be able to make an indent, but the butter still basically holds its shape. That's perfect. You crack your egg on the countertop, and then we're going to crack our egg into a bowl. And then I'm gonna save my egg yolks for using something later. Make sure there's no stray egg yolk bits in there, and then you can transfer that to your main bowl. So if you get a little stray egg yolk in there, see that? My egg yolk broke while I was cracking it into this bowl, so I cannot use that egg at all. So this water should just be simmering. It doesn't need to be crazy boiling hot. And make sure that the bowl is not sitting inside the water, because then you could actually cook your egg whites, and we don't want scrambled eggs. So I'm gonna place my egg whites in here, and then my sugar. And then I'm just gonna give that a quick little whisk. Basically, we're just gonna whisk this every 30 seconds or so, just to make sure that the liquids are heating evenly. We're not trying to whisk it, just kind of moving it around. And if you dip your finger in here and feel it, you can feel the grains of sugar in the egg white. So we want to keep whisking this and letting it heat until you can't feel those grains of sugar anymore. Or if you want to use a thermometer, when your mixture reaches 110 degrees Fahrenheit, it's hot enough. I also kind of try and work the mixture up onto the sides of the bowl to make sure that I'm getting any kind of stray granules of sugar. I want all of that melted. Almost there. The mixture is pretty warm too, so don't be surprised when you stick your finger in there. It's a little bit hot. You'll notice that the liquids just start getting kind of looser too. When it gets closer to the right stage, it'll seem less like really thick egg white and start feeling more a little watery. And that's because the sugar is dissolving. Okay, I can't feel any grains of sugar in there. It feels nice and smooth. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove that from the heat. All right, so now we're gonna put this onto our stand mixer. You could do this by hand with a hand mixer, definitely possible. So it's gonna take longer and a little bit more elbow grease. So now we're gonna whip this up to firm peaks. So that means that our meringue is gonna stick straight up when it's ready. Okay, it's been 3 minutes, and I just want to do a little check. Kind of get down on the sides. You see the meringue is falling over. That's not stiff enough yet. All right, it's been about probably 5 or 6 minutes now. And probably could still go a little bit more. The tips of those meringues are still falling over, although it is getting stiffer. Yeah, a little bit longer. Okay, I can tell that is definitely nice and stiff. You can see it's standing straight up. Obviously, if your little tendrils are too long, they're not gonna stand up, but that's definitely what you're looking for. Okay, so now before we start making our actual buttercream, we have to let this meringue cool down. If you feel the bottom of the bowl, it's probably still pretty warm. If you add buttercream into this, it's just gonna melt into a soupy mess. So what I do is I just scoop all my meringue out and put it just into like a cake pan or a dish or something to just kind of spread out the, so it's not just so compact. And then I'm gonna put this in the fridge for like 10 minutes and then it will be cool super fast. Okay, so my meringue is nice and cool. I touched it and it doesn't feel warm anymore. So I'm gonna just put that back in the bowl. It's a little bit sticky. Whisk back on. Okay, so now we have our softened butter. We're gonna start adding it in small chunks. I just use my fingers. This is whisking all the butter into the meringue and it's making it nice and fluffy. It's gonna taste amazing. Then you can go ahead and add in your vanilla. And don't forget your salt. Since we used unsalted butter, your buttercream is not gonna be very salty, but you still need a little bit to cut that sweetness and intensify the flavor. When your buttercream is done, it should look very silky, not yellow. And if you give it a taste, it should taste like cream and not butter. If it does taste like butter, you need to whip it more. Just gonna give this a little taste. Oh my God, it's so good. It never gets old. Okay, so almost all butter has kind of like a yellowish tinge to it, and that is just from the butter. Sometimes you'll notice that like lower quality butters will be even more yellow. And that's because way back in the day, high quality butter was considered to be a better quality the more yellow it was. This is not necessarily the case anymore. So some companies still will put yellow food coloring in their butter to make it more yellow. So annoying. So to counteract that and to get rid of air bubbles, I'm gonna switch to the paddle attachment and I'm gonna put a couple of drops of violet food coloring into my buttercream, and this violet or purple or whatever you have is going to counteract the yellow that's in the buttercream and make it appear more white. So I'm going to go ahead and let my buttercream mix for about 10 minutes on low. The buttercream is done. You could totally use it right now, but what this does is it just takes all the bubbles out of the buttercream so it's super duper smooth. Totally an extra step, but I do it. So now our buttercream is very smooth. It doesn't have a lot of bubbles in it. You could just keep mixing this until it was completely bubble free, but I'm gonna go ahead and say that's good. This is enough buttercream to frost one 8-inch round cake inside and out. And the great thing about Swiss meringue buttercream is it's completely stable. You can leave this at room temperature for 2 days if you really needed to. And if you need to store it, you can put leftovers in the refrigerator for a week, or you can freeze it for up to 6 months. It's great for going underneath fondant. It's stable enough to pipe rosettes or, cupcakes, whatever you need to do with it. You can flavor it with curds, extracts. It's amazing. It's seriously the best buttercream ever. So that's everything there is to know about making Swiss meringue buttercream. Hopefully this has been a great tutorial for you guys and you've learned a lot about making Swiss meringue buttercream. I'm Liz Merrick and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.